Mr. President, Honourable Minister and Ambassadors, Ms. Governor of Antwerp, esteemed guests, Président du Conseil d'administration et doyen des facultés de l'ULB, fellow members of the Jewish community in Belgium, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start on a serious note. Mr. President, we have all noticed that security here was slightly tighter than at Brussels airport. The story is told, Mr. President, of a tete-a-tete between President Harry S. Truman and President Chaim Weizmann, the first president of Israel. Whilst complaining of his sorrows, of his troubles, to President Weizmann, President Truman lamented, "How can you compare your problems to mine? You have about 2 million people to care about, whilst I have over 120 million. Aha, Mr. President, replied Mr. Weizmann. It's true, you are the president of 120 million people. But remember, I'm the president of 2 million presidents. So on that serious note, I would like to first thank you in the name of the CCOJB, its president, Mr. Sosnowski, and myself on the name of the Forum of Jewish Organizations for attending this evening's appointment with history. It is a tremendous honor for me to welcome you here tonight, Mr. President. En het is ook een waar genoegen om u allen hier zo talrijk te mogen verwelkomen. Ik wil vooral minister De Croo en gouverneur Cathy Berks, de ambassadors, persoonlijk bedanken voor hun aanwezigheid. Mr. President, both Israel and Belgium have the will to safeguard the freedom of each and every individual, or, as you stated, a shared ambition to keep seeking a better tomorrow, tikkun olam in Hebrew, not only by protecting and defending democracy, but by building further on the values we inherited from our ancestors and that are so deeply rooted in the history of our people and of that of the European Union. In more than one way, the collective strive to reach these goals unites us and symbolizes the fond friendship both Israel and Belgium have enjoyed. It is a relationship that makes us proud. Proud as representatives of the Jewish community here and as citizens of this country. We say, "Hamotzeh chaver ne'eman motzeh otzar." The one that finds a faithful friend finds treasure. And I think this is true in both ways of that mutual friendship. And it is with that that I'm proud to introduce my friend, Mr. Sosnowski. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariel. I'm delighted to present our today's host, the Perpetual Secretary of the Royal Academy of Belgium, Professor at the University ULB, and successively Rector of the University and Chairman of the Board of the University. For us, this Hervé Asquin, this true humanist, is the symbol and the spirit of our university. He will today just welcome us and give a small introduction of the evening. And don't forget, et je suis très heureux de vous dire, pour ceux qui ne le savaient pas, que le professeur Asquin a remis les insignes de docteur honoris causa au président Pérez il y a exactement 25 ans. Merci, monsieur Asquin, de nous recevoir ici et à vous.
J'essaye de n'oublier personne. Mr. President, Meneer Alexander de Croo, vice-premier en minister van de Pensioen. Madame Evelyne Uiterbroek, ministre de la région de Bruxelles-Capitale, Mesdames et Messieurs les parlementaires, Monsieur l'ambassadeur, Messieurs les ambassadeurs, Monsieur le recteur et Messieurs et Mesdames, évidemment, les représentants de l'Université de Bruxelles. Welcome to our Royal Academy of Belgium, Mr. President. We know each other a little. You met for the first time in 1887. You received the title of Doctor Honoris Causa of Université Libre de Bruxelles. At the same time, then Marco Suarez, Abdou Diouf and Sandro Pertini. 25 years later, you are in the French-speaking Academy of Belgium. Et je vais donc aussi m'exprimer en français. En 1987, j'avais salué dans mon discours, je cite, « Votre courage dans la recherche de la paix et les efforts constants pour que se développe une tolérance mutuelle entre les États. » Dans votre réponse, vous aviez émis le souhait de voir se constituer au Moyen-Orient ce que vous aviez appelé un Benelux oriental, un marché commun du Moyen-Orient. Et vous aviez terminé votre intervention par ces mots : au Moyen-Orient, il est permis de rêver, car même au Moyen-Orient, le pire n'est pas toujours inéluctable. Mais il n'y a pas eu de miracle, Mr. President. Pour la paix, il faut être deux. Et c'est vrai qu'il faut bien constater qu'aujourd'hui, il y a beaucoup de faucons, de guerriers en Palestine, mais aussi en Israël. Et que vous apparaissez, Monsieur le Président, comme un des sages de l'État d'Israël. Et c'est la raison pour laquelle j'ai l'immense honneur de vous accueillir parmi nous aujourd'hui. Mais donc, l'optimisme n'est pas nécessairement de rigueur. Je sais que je dois être court et donc je conclus. Nous comptons donc, ici en Belgique, en Europe occidentale, sur le poids moral qui est le vôtre pour infléchir la politique, en tout cas en Israël. J'espère que d'autres se chargeront de la même chose en Palestine. J'ai dit.
Le ministre de Crème était prévu de parler ici maintenant à ma place. Il a reçu une promotion, il devient vice-premier ministre vu les turbulences que nous connaissons. Et donc, M. de Crème n'est pas parmi nous ce soir, il est en train de prêter serment chez le roi. Je vous propose donc immédiatement un intermède musicale. Sarina is 18 young artist who is composing her own songs, words and lyrics in French, Hebrew and English. She is studying psychology at the university and attending opera master classes at the Conservatoire of Valenciennes in France. She started to perform some years ago on different stages, participating to song contests on festivals in Belgium, among others, Music Live, where she won the third prize, or the Belgium Eurovision Song Contest in 2011, where she finished at the second place. She likes to sing in French, Hebrew, English, Japanese, Yiddish, and Swahili. In 2012, during a visit in Israel, she had the privilege of meeting Noah and had the amazing experience of replacing her for 2 songs in October at the Ancienne Belgique when Noah couldn't sing. Tonight, she is very moved and excited to sing 2 songs for the President of Israel, Shimon Peres. He represents for her the true spirit of Israel, mixing courage, values, and fight for peace. The first song, Shir Heres, written by Nathan Alterman and composed by Sasha Hargov in 1966, which is a poetic lullaby inviting to serenity and peace. Thank you, Sarina.
נו המלך בארץ, נו רוח
Well, now difficulty. Je suis vraiment en difficulté, and I will not present our prestigious guest, the President of the State of Israel, because first, it's not his wish, and I guess that every man knows his CV. What you probably don't know, and describe more precisely the man, is one of his initiatives, an achievement, the Peres Center for Peace. Starting in 1996, the Peres Center promotes peace building between Israelis and Palestinians through concrete common projects from agriculture to sport. In healthcare, my field of interest, the center assists the creation of a Palestinian independent medical system through human resources development. Also, with the Twin Peace Sport School program, they fosters values of peace and coexistence by changing attitudes towards the others and diffusing stereotypes. Because without education, no future. Congratulations, Mr. President, and thank you for this achievement. L'éducation, notre avenir, sans doute le même thème cher à Didier Vivier, recteur de l'ULB, mon recteur que je suis honoré d'introduire aujourd'hui. Historien et archéologue, professeur ordinaire depuis 2002, doyen de la faculté de philosophie et lettres, il est actuellement président du Fonds national de la recherche scientifique et au début de son second mandat de recteur. Je dois vous confier combien Didier Vivier m'impressionne. Travailleur inlassable, connaissant parfaitement ses dossiers, il est toujours à l'écoute et d'une disponibilité jamais mise en défaut. En bon archéologue, c'est un homme de terrain qui dirige aussi bien la mission archéologique d'Apamé en Syrie qu'il ne maîtrise les problèmes académiques de notre université. Et vous serez surpris de connaître l'endroit le plus dangereux pour lui. Merci à toi, Didier, d'avoir accepté notre invitation. The floor is yours, Mr. President, Mr. Director. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. President.
Good evening.
In 1987, indeed, the Université Libre de Bruxelles awarded you an honorary degree, as just said Professor Hervé Asquin, 7 years before your Nobel Prize. And in his speech, the then rector of the ULB, who is today the Secrétaire Perpétuel of the Royal Academy, explained the decision of the university as the result, and I quote in English what he said in French, and I hope to translate correctly: your courage for surging peace and your constant efforts to develop a mutual tolerance between the states. End of quote. 25 years later, some colleagues and members of my university were distressed that I accepted the invitation of CCOJB Forum and the Embassy of Israel to discuss with you and to ask you a few questions within a total freedom of speech. And I will not discuss here the reasons that made me accepting this invitation. I consider this an interior debate to the university. Yet, the reasons of my colleagues' distress are real. And they are highly respectable, and I must admit that I personally share a significant number of them. I and my university are very concerned as much by the sufferings of the Palestinians as by the sorrow and the fear of Israelis who who are attacked by suicide bombings, for instance. But my university is also concerned by international law and regulations. And as many others, we consider the colonization of the West Bank and Israeli annexed East Jerusalem as illegal and violating the Geneva Convention prohibition against transfers of population. So my first question, and I would like to put 5. My first question concerns the opposition, and perhaps, reading you carefully, the complementarity between strategy and politics. You devoted to this topic several pages of your book, published in 2007 in French in Paris. According to you, strategy must lead to victory, while politics must lead to peace. There is, to quote the title of your book, a time for war and a time for peace. But I have to confess that it's not clear to me if both processes have to be always undertaken together. And some people even further fear today a kind of double discourse. While some, and you are among them, declare that colonization must stop, it goes on. While you are in favor of further discussion with Mahmoud Abbas, colonization, which is the main obstacle to peace and to negotiation with the Palestinian Authority, colonization continues, including in East Jerusalem. So everything happens as if Shimon Peres tried to offer a positive image of an open state of Israel, while, on the contrary, the politics conducted by the successive government, to which you also widely contributed during 15 years, display a policy often severely condemned by foreign observers, and again recently by the European ambassador in Jerusalem. In other words, do not you feel used by the politics of Netanyahu and Lieberman? Some blame you for not always matching your acts to your discourses about peace. And so, should not politics today definitively abandon strategy? Is it still possible to believe a discourse about peace from the State of Israel as long as policy of sanctions, restriction on freedom of movement or access to basics as employment, land and water is going on? That's my first question.
You know, first of all, thank you very much. And thank you very much that you gave me the honor of the doctorate. I must say that I was worried before it. I thought you are going to make me an examination. I wasn't sure I'm going to pass through. Then I learned that you get it without examination, and I felt very well. On the desk of President Kennedy, he kept writing, saying, "God, my boat is so small, and the ocean is so great, so large. It's very hard to cross such an ocean with a small boat. It's not a matter of just, that you would like to do this and that." I shall make a brief summary of what happened. The United Nations has declared about the State of Israel, the establishment of two states, an Arab state and a Jewish state in 1947. We accepted, the Arabs rejected. And they attacked us. Actually, we have had a war before we have had a state. They lost the war. In those 65 years, since then, Israel was attacked 7 times There is no country on earth that has had to go through it. So you can say, how about my policy? You know, in my policy, the Arabs did not participate. I didn't suggest that they will attack us. But anyway, we went through the 7 wars, outnumbered, outgunned. And then they say Israel wants to conquer land and conquer water and these sort of things. Well, we won. The wars were done not only by the Palestinians, but also by the Egyptians and the Syrians and the Jordanians. We made peace with Egypt. We gave back everything. We didn't keep anything for us. People forget it. You can say, well, you didn't keep your policy, but this is the policy. We gave back all the land to Jordan and all the water after we won the war. And people still criticize us. Now let me give you something, because you know there is a difference between telling stories and watching with your own eyes. My colleague Rabin was assassinated when we stood together speaking for peace. I replaced him in under very tragic circumstances. Anyway, I was afraid that the nation with a broken heart will not fulfill what we have promised to do. So I made myself not only Prime Minister, but also Minister of Defense, and I handed back to the Palestinians, after the assassination, 340 villages and 6 cities, immediately. Alas, after a few weeks, or after a few months rather, the terror began again. And now I want to give you a vivid picture, otherwise it's hard to understand. I was on my way to my office around 7 o'clock in the morning in Jerusalem. And my security man told me there was an explosion of a bus and many people were killed. I told him, well, let's go to the square. I came to the square. The square was red with blood. Bodies and parts of bodies were spread all over the places. There were thousands of people there. When they saw me, they started to shout, "Murderer! Betrayer! Look what you did to us." What could I answer? The next day, in Tel Aviv, almost the same time, another bus was exploded. Another 40, 50 people were killed. I went to this square again. There were thousands of people. They shouted the same thing. "Murderer, betrayer, look what you did." The third day, in Jerusalem, another bus. And the fourth day, it was already at the campaign of elections in Israel. I knew that when the campaign started, I have had an advantage of 20 seats. I know that I lost it. I spoke with Arafat. I told him, "What are you doing?" And he says, "It's not us, it's not me." But finally, when he saw the fourth time, he arrested hundreds of the leaders of Hamas. He shaved their beards, he put them in prison, he take away. It was too late. I lost the elections, and I know that he was crying. Now, how would you call it? Policy, strategy, what is it? Who planned it? Who foresaw it? For people who know, it's easy to speak. And I can go on. Now, the first part of the history of Israel, we didn't have even enough arms to defend ourselves. We bought from your company, the FN, some rifles for our lives, machine guns. The second part, when the Arabs gave up the idea of attack, they saw they cannot win, we started the process of peace. I said already, Egypt, we gave back everything, water, land, oil, Jordan, water, land, more than we supposed to. And we started to speak with the Palestinians. Actually, I wanted that I negotiated an agreement with King Hussein, but it didn't come true. Now, I started to talk with the Palestinians, and I spoke hours and hours with Arafat. I told him, look, if you want peace, really, you must stop terror. I cannot be a partner like it. I shall speak of peace and you'll kill our people. And then Arafat came out with some slogans very nice. He says, let's make peace of the brave. Okay. And then he says, one people, one rifle. I told him, my dear friend, take away the other rifles. If you want to have a state, you must take the same troubles that Lincoln took in America. Unite the army. You have to do what Ben-Gurion did. He fought other armed organizations. He said yes, but the fact is he didn't do it. That was tragic, again. You know, you talk about Israel. Now we started with the Palestinians. First of all, we agreed to have the Palestinian Authority, which they manage. They run in many ways. And then we helped to build their economy. And we helped them to build now a security force. And we agreed on the two-state solution. For me, it was easy. But for the right wing, it was very difficult. They wanted to have what they call the large Israel. They agreed to a two-state solution. It's a majority today. And then an unexpected friend of mine, Arik Sharon, that was considered very extreme, agreed to evacuate Gaza without any conditions. We left Gaza completely. And they could have built a Palestinian independence there. Instead, Gaza was taken over by Hamas, which is a terroristic organization, and instead of building a state of their own, they made it a base of shooting missiles against our civilian life. Now the people are saying, what the hell do you want, that we shall give the West Bank again? And they'll shoot at us. I didn't change my mind. But it's very difficult, you know, to face the fact that you don't invite. Now about Jerusalem. Let's be straight about Jerusalem. Jerusalem, we agreed to negotiate about the future of Jerusalem. It's not a fait accompli. Not me. Mr. Begin even agreed. Now let's have a look at Jerusalem. The Holy Basin, as they call it, the Holy City, you know the size of it? All told, it's 2 square kilometers. On these 2 square kilometers, you have 3 world religions. On these 2 square kilometers, you have 100 holy sites, Christians, Muslims, Jewish, and the Christians are also Catholics and Protestants, and all of them. I don't know that anybody in Israel has an idea that Israel will control the holy sites of Jerusalem. The church controls the Christian sites, and the Muslims control their mosques, and the Jews control their synagogue. What is called the larger Jerusalem is not necessarily the Holy Jerusalem. And there was a proposal by President Clinton that the outside of this holy basin, there was something like, I don't remember exactly, 14 or 15 Arab suburbs and maybe 17 Jewish suburbs. He suggested that in the future, the Arab suburbs will be part of the Palestinian state and the Jewish suburbs part of Israel. So, I mean, we are not. It's not just us who are building. The Arabs are building as well in Jerusalem. And clearly there is an argument about the borders. Where will the border pass? Or maybe Jerusalem will remain united. But to this very day, it's open. And now I want to tell you. I said the boat is small, the ocean is large. Now the Arab world is in a revolutionary mood. All over the Arab countries, you don't have practically, but maybe for one or two, stable governments. It has nothing to do with Israel. The events in Syria, nothing to do with us. The events in Egypt, nothing to do with us. The events in Tunisia, in Iraq, in Lebanon, nothing. We have really to complete our negotiations with the Palestinians. And we shall. But I couldn't foresee or couldn't change the fact there are two Palestinians. The Hamas in Gaza that doesn't want to negotiate, and the PLO in the West Bank, headed by President Abbas, for whom I have much respect. We are good friends, we talk, negotiate, we are not enemies. But it's hard. He doesn't control the whole situation. And I hope we shall renew it. So, I mean, you can summarize the way you want. But let me add one point just to complete my answer. When I wrote the book, I said what you quoted. But now, I changed my mind. Why? I believe technology has eaten up strategy. Even in Belgium. If Clausewitz would publish today's book, nobody would read it. The classic definition that war is the continuation of policy with other means is an old story, because the world is not facing wars. The world is facing terror. You cannot say that terror is the continuation of policies and other means. It's without a policy. And so goes about economy. Look, Europe once united, including Belgium, but the governments don't run neither economy nor security. Economy became global. It affects every country. No country can affect the global economy. Security became terrorized. No government controls terror. And the world, in a way, became ungovernable. What happened is that we have a new world with an old mind. I think we don't have a choice but to change our minds, because we cannot change the world which is today based on science and not on land. Thank you.
So, Mr. President, we have a total freedom of speech, but no time to discuss. And so I will ask you a question about higher education.
About?
Higher education, the university. As said Maurice Sosnowski, education is the future. Is it conceivable to have a kind of Marshall Plan for higher education in Palestine, for instance?
I'm not sure I understood the question.
So, is it possible to help also Palestinians to have a higher education? Because it's probably a way to face modernity. So the relationship between university, higher education and modernity.
Look, today Marshall Plan is not an answer anymore. You know, foreign aid was very important. But foreign aid was summed up in a way which is worrying. You took the money of poor people in rich countries and you hand it over to rich people in poor countries. And you created a great deal of corruption. Now, believe me, I feel friendly to the Arabs. They are not my enemies. And I wish that they will really improve their situation. I think what is good for them is good for us. But how to do it? And what is the problem? The problem is that in the last 50 years, say there are 10 countries alongside the Nile River. Their population grew 5 times. The Nile didn't grow 5 times. The Nile lost 10% of its water. There is a terrible shortage of water. When you don't have water, you don't have food. There is a terrible shortage of food. Children are dying. Now, you'll give money. What can money do? Nothing. And you don't have enough money. You know, in 1952, when there was the revolution of the young officers in Egypt, there were in Egypt 17 million people. Today there are 87 million people who has the money. In Ethiopia, which is another country alongside the Nile, there were 20, today there are 80 million people. The distribution of the water was done by the British 8 years ago. Now it expired, and they have to reach an agreement how to distribute the water. They couldn't reach an agreement. Because according to the British distribution, most of the water of the Blue Nile, which belongs to the Ethiopian, went to the Major Nile, which means the Egyptians. So the Ethiopians are saying, my God, we are hungry. We are not going to give you our water. And they started to build a dam to stop the flow of the water of the Blue Nile to the Major Nile. The Egyptians say, look, if you'll do it, we shall attack you. Without the Nile, we have nothing. We are a desert. Now, what we are saying is, don't do it. We have a better answer for you. We know how to make from one Nile 3 Niles in Israel. We made an agriculture without land and without water. Here again, I mean, people are talking generalities, but let's go to the facts. Israel, the size of Israel, all told, is 1 promille of the space of the Middle East. That's it. 1,000th part of the Middle East. The land is poor, refusing. We have had swamps in the north and deserts in the south. I remember the early days. We didn't have water. We have 2 lakes. One is dead, the other is dying. We have 1 river, the Jordan River, that has more history than water. It's very famous, but irrelevant to irrigation. We had nothing. And you know, we didn't have any natural resources. The Middle East at that time was divided, as they said jokingly, between the oily countries and the holy countries. We were totally holy. We didn't have a drop of oil. Then we discovered that we have a great resource, and that is the human being. This is our real natural resource. And we took science and the devotion and built the best agriculture on earth. We can really make from 1 drop of water 5 drops of water. I said 3 because by simply recycling 3 times of the water, you have 3 drops, or you can have 3 Niles. When it comes to the yield, the agricultural yield, we have 10 times more than you in Belgium and anybody else. Because our agriculture is high-tech. We are telling the Egyptians openly and privately, look, what we have you can have. You know, we are not keeping all those for ourselves. The Chinese took it from us. The Indians took it from us. It's not laughing. I mean, it's very serious. I think that what they need is really science. You know, in the last 10,000 years, people made their living from the land. For the last 30 or 40 years, they make their living or their growth from science. That would make globality. Because science cannot be divided. And armies cannot conquer wisdom. And police cannot arrest science. Nonsense. The world is one world. Now, I'm looking at the picture, say, in Egypt. You know, the Arabs did invest a great deal of money in higher education, which I salute. There are hundreds of thousands of graduates, but they didn't prepare an industry that can give them work. 50% of the students, graduate students, are unemployed. They don't know what to eat, what to do. So we have to look at things as they are. You know, I read the critics about Israel in your own press. It's old stuff, my God. What are they talking about? It's a different world. And, you know, we are a small island. We have to defend our island. It's very difficult because we are surrounded from outside. But we would like to tranquilize the sea. We are not interested in a stormy sea. We are not for starvation. Now, I think that some of the Arab countries will not escape poverty, even if they will have scientific answers, unless they will also compose their structure to modern conditions. For example, if they continue to discriminate women, there is no chance that they will discover escape policy. If you discriminate in women, you discriminate her children. If the woman is uneducated, the children are uneducated. And if the children are uneducated, they cannot escape poverty. Every time I meet President Obama, he asks me, who is against democracy in the Middle East? I'm answering, the husbands. They don't want to give equal rights to their wives, and they don't want to give equal rights to the women. And interesting enough, most of the students in universities are women, are girls, because they seek not only education, but they seek freedom as well. If you saw the demonstration in Tunisia, most of them are women. Now, we cannot force anybody, we're not going to force anybody. What we can is offer. Now, who needs today wars? It's nonsense. War is the most expensive and unneeded process. You know, if you create enemies, they're extremely expensive to maintain an enemy. My God, it costs so much money. Make friends. You know, I am looking at the United States and I think about the greatness of the United States. I think the United States became great by giving, not by taking, by making friends, not by maintaining animosities. So we have to have a look. We are not children, and we are not opportunistic. Jewishness was born as a protest against inequality, against slavery, against masters. According, as you know, to our tradition, every person was born in the image of the Lord. But the Lord did not agree that any of the persons will become a Lord himself. Or any of us will be superior to the other. So, you know, you can blame us. It's too simplistic. It's too old. And just to add a word, you spoke about my optimism. First of all, I'm for optimism, because I think that optimists and pessimists die the same way. They live differently. So what does it matter how you die? Better live as an optimist than a pessimist. But I believe that we shall renew the negotiations with the Palestinians. I think neither the Palestinians nor us have a better choice or another choice. And the consuls that say it's too late, it's impossible, I disagree with them. I think that today, again, even the land has three dimensions. You can build roads underneath the land, on bridges. I mean, there are many new technologies. And we agree that we have to give back the land, part of the land, to the Palestinians. And we maintain whatever we have agreed to. So I'm seeing the difficulties, but I want to tell you it's not that me who changed. I'm saying one thing and doing another thing. No. I have one thing, one thought. I'm not going to change it. The fact that we encounter difficulties, I know, it's part of life. I distinguish, you know, our greatest philosopher, Rambam, Maimonides, once said there are two sorts of truth. The true truth and the demanding truth. The real truth. I can't run away from it. I didn't change my true truth. And as one of the citizens of Israel, I shall try all my life to really introduce freedom and equality and prosperity to our neighbors as well as to ourselves. I didn't give up.
express our sincerest gratitude to all of you for granting us a historical evening in your company. Sometimes questions were to the point but much too long, and the answers a little bit too short, but very, very interesting. We would have liked to have you even more time. Ladies and gentlemen, very important, before we start the welcome dinner, in just a few moments, President Perez will be taking his leave, so may we kindly ask you to remain seated. As we say our goodbyes, Mr. President, I can only agree with that other great president, Mr. Barack Obama, who chose these words to describe you, the man, Shimon Peres. For he knows what we must never forget. With faith in ourselves and courage in our hearts, no dream is too big, no vision is beyond our reach. Ladies and gentlemen, you were a great audience in the presence of an even greater president. Thank you very much. Shalom Leitod.
It's a good moment for the President Obama. It's the second mandate.
Et ça reste la même histoire il y a 20 ans qu'aujourd'hui. Des gens intelligents qui essayent de se comprendre et peuvent trouver la paix. C'est ça ce qu'il a dit aujourd'hui. Je dois dire, moi j'ai trouvé ça une soirée vraiment incroyable.
C'est l'espoir.